Welcome back to the 716 Sports Podcast here. It's the Bills bye week. We have some looking back at the beginning part of the season to do, but while we had the moment here and we don't have to immediately go into recapping the game that was, because it wasn't, I thought it'd be great to bring you all up to speed. We were talking before the show, and I just found it, of how it is possible to be a 4-11-1 division winner in the NFC. So currently the Eagles, who I believe are 3-6-1, are in first place in the NFC East right now after losing yesterday to the Cleveland Browns, just barely leading the 3-7 Cowboys and the 3-7 Giants. It's a barn burner out there, folks.
Nailed it.
It is possible for the Eagles to win the division at 4-11-1. And here is how it happens. First of all, every team in that division needs to lose all the remaining out-of-division games. That feels very possible, even though Dallas did somehow limp to a victory over Minnesota yesterday. Here's the way that this happens. Dallas beats Washington week 12. Philly beats Dallas week 16. Then the Giants beat Dallas week 17. And Washington beats Philly. Those are all the things that need to happen for Philly to win the division at 4-11-1. This is not one of those. You know, if these three teams tie, the Bills make the playoffs from the old In the Hunt graphics. It feels right. It feels like a fitting end to what has been 2020.
Quite frankly, I'll be disappointed if that doesn't happen, Jeff.
And that's what I've been rooting for.
Yeah, now I have something to root for beyond the Bills winning the Super Bowl now. It's Bills win the Super Bowl 1A, and Eagles win the division at 4-11-1 is 1B. Yeah, I'm here for it.
Something to watch for in all those primetime games they're going to keep giving the Cowboys.
I mean,
late window games.
So what do we think of the rest of the league yesterday, though, boys? Because last check, 3 other teams in the AFC East played yesterday.
Well,
and all 3 of them found a way to lose, which is pretty good. I was hoping that Green Bay would beat the Colts. Not that that really matters in the grand scheme of things for the Bills, but in an instance like that, you always want the NFC team to beat the AFC team. And Valdez-Scantling decided that he didn't want to win that game and just kind of threw the ball up in the air. But overall for the Bills, things almost went perfectly. Some other things could have gone their way. And obviously the biggest thing to talk about is the Denver Broncos defense bailing out the Bills on their bye week and beating the Miami Dolphins, ending the game fittingly or unfittingly, however you want to look at it, with a Ryan Fitzpatrick interception in the end zone.
Yeah, so another kind of tangential thought to that I had earlier today. You look at who the playoff teams may be in the AFC, it is possible that the Bills will have had every single one of them on their schedule, plus potentially 3 NFC playoff teams. I mean, I know a lot was said about the strength of the schedule earlier this season. It is crazy to think the Bills could have 9 different playoff teams, accounting for 10 played of their 16 games, because they're going to play Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's pretty much a lock at this point. They played Kansas City. They played Tennessee, who I think is a lock for at least a wild card.
The Dolphins.
The Dolphins and the Raiders are in serious contention for other wild card spots. And
Seattle.
Then Seattle and Arizona, and then the Rams.
Yeah.
They could play 9 different playoff teams this season. And you look around the NFL, I mean, it does feel like it's kind of Pittsburgh, Kansas City, and then figure out who's after them, whether it's Green Bay, Buffalo, New Orleans. But that is a crazy deep schedule the Bills have had to play this year.
And that's why it's okay that they're only 3-7 at the bye.
Yeah.
Oh, wait
a second.
Oh, wait, hold up. Hold it.
You might think that sometimes, though, with the way the way the fans are. But, and it's nice. It makes them well prepared for the playoffs and they get their quality teams. I can't wait till they beat the Steelers. That team. They don't play anybody good yet.
Yeah. I think they match up well against the Steelers. I don't even want to say the Bills are a better team than the Steelers because there's no evidence of that. But I think they have a formula to at least slow the Steelers. Like, teams have slowed the Steelers down without being as good defensively as the Bills are, you know, as a whole. Not that the Bills have defensively been great, but I don't know. Like, I feel like they'll get pressure on Roethlisberger, and that changes things. Roethlisberger's not as mobile as he was, and I'm not trying to be Mr. Cheerleader. The Bills are going to win every game. I think they match up with the Steelers okay. I think it'll be an okay game. I don't know.
I think the Bills and the Steelers have only had one common opponent so far that beat the Bills and lost to the Steelers. So I wouldn't bang the Bills are better than the Steelers drum too hard.
Yeah.
I think Pittsburgh's a really good football team.
That defense is still really good.
Bills-esque tendency of playing down to inferior competition.
In a league where defenses are not standing out this year, the Steelers' defense still continues to be very, very good.
Yeah. Their offense is... The running game is still kind of questionable, but their depth at receiver, if Ben could stay healthy, Man, imagine having Chase Claypool as your number 3 right now. The way the kid is playing is unbelievable.
First receiver in the Super Bowl era to have 10 touchdowns in his first 10 games.
I was thinking earlier, now that Burrow is out for the season, which, speaking of around the league, that just sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks for that guy. He's fun to watch. It's significant enough knee injury that it's putting next season's beginning into question, which just sucks for him. It sucks for Cincy. It sucks for the league. Now that he's out of the question, I was trying to think of who's like kind of the guy who's competing with Justin Herbert for AFC Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think you can make a really good argument if Herbert has a slow end of the season that Chase Claypool's been the best offensive rookie in the AFC this year. He's been that good.
Speaking of Joe Burrow, I think it's time to put in a no quarterback rule in Washington. Everyone gets hurt.
That field is bad.
Everyone's breaking their damn legs. Wildcat only, no quarterbacks.
I don't cringe at injuries. Blood doesn't. But I looked away. His knee. You see his knee leave where it's supposed to be. Like, I know Alex Smith was bad, but like I winced and turned away. I admit I have not seen the full replay of what happened to him. And now they said ACL, MCL, and other structural damage.
An extension to that, not just Washington, the NFC goddamned East, because that was where Dak Prescott got hurt between Cowboys-Giants. And that one was gross.
It was.
Then Giants, Washington, Kyle Allen. Now this, you know what? Should we just abolish the NFC East for the rest of the year?
I mean, lest we forget, that's the same field that RG3's knee did the old one limb hokey pokey.
And Joe Theismann with Lawrence
and Alex
Taylor
Smith.
all those years
And he
ago.
turned himself around. That was what it was all about.
And I mean, this is an all-time bad field. People have said that about FedEx Field for years, and it's just for a league that makes money hand over fist. Maybe a few less hands and fists this year without fans in attendance, but they're not hurting. They can't find a way to resurface these fields that are bad. I know Snyder is a cheapo, but
Yeah, I was about to say it's
becoming a product of.
He lost some money with, the football team.
That is okay. It was kind of funny for like 2 or 3 weeks. It was like you go on Red Zone Hits, like we're going back to watch the football team. It's like, oh, it's like a coach in the locker. It's like we're going out there and win the football game, and now it's just like, guys, pick a damn name. It's tired and not cool, and no one likes it.
You guys were talking about fields too. Did you guys see them talking about the Raiders field? They roll the entire field outside. It's on.
So does Arizona.
Yeah, that's what Arizona did. Yeah.
I've never seen that before.
Yep.
That's unbelievable.
Put it outside, give it natural
the
sunlight.
grass grows outside, and they
bring it
fucking
inside.
treadmill it in, and that's how they play. It's absurd to me. I just want to see them move the field one time while they're playing.
Why don't they just open the goddamn roof?
He could go 0 yards.
It's a Buffalo Wild Wings commercial. Someone hits the button at Allegiant Stadium, and the end zone just like moves 10 yards the other direction.
It's actually going to be on a field goal kick to make the ball go through the uprights. Why are they lining up for an 85-yard field goal? The ball's up in the air, and wait a minute, the field is shifting,
moving.
and it's good.
Why open the stadium?
Suddenly, Devin Singletary has a negative 80-yard run.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just my ignorance, but it feels like opening the roof is easier than moving the ground. Clearly, I don't understand the structure of this very well.
Al Davis was like, Mark Davis was like, how can we spend more money? They're like, let me tell you this. We're going to grow the field outside and then bring it inside every week. He's like, brilliant, do it.
Have you ever seen
Mark Davis was watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, and he's like, earth bending. That's my shit.
Speaking of that game last night, that was a fun
great
football
game.
game.
It was a
I want to
great
go on the
game.
record. For those of you who listened to our preview episode, I thought the Bills might lose to the Raiders. People were giving me crap on this show for saying the Raiders are going to be a playoff team. They're going to be a damn playoff team. They are. Derek Carr, finally, for the first time since maybe his rookie year, is playing like a top 10-ish quarterback.
I would say his MVP consideration season. He's playing better than that. And it's just a shame that, Patrick Mahomes is a cheat code.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Carr did enough to win that game yesterday, and just the problem was, and we've seen this before, they left time on the clock for Patrick Mahomes. It's the old leaving time on the clock for Brady or leaving the time on the clock for Rodgers. There are some guys in this league that if you give them time and you give them an opportunity, this is fascinating. We're watching a video in the background of the turf actually moving. Give these guys time. And I have no idea what Jonathan Abram thought he was doing, trying to run 15 yards like a human missile at Mahomes and leave half the end zone
because
alone
he's
for Kelsey.
Jonathan Scumbag Abram.
think it could have at least line up the guy who's gonna.
Couldn't have happened. Couldn't have happened to a worse person. You hate to see it. Oh, that dude sucks. I don't really have many players that I cheer against at this point in the NFL. Jonathan Abrams sucks. He just sucks. I hate his very existence, and one day the CTE will claim you. I am going straight to hell for saying that, but I do not care. Because apparently, neither does he!
And I thought we were going to get you fired up this week.
Yeah.
Clearly, I was wrong.
That was a good game. I agree. It's good to see Nelson Aguilar kind of revive his career after getting run out of Philadelphia, and the video resurfaced this week of the guy talking about catching babies out of the burning building.
Not like Aguilar.
Unlike Aguilar, we were catching. That is so brilliant.
That is an all-time fan on the street
Oh my
take.
gosh,
I love
so
that guy.
good.
That's so good.
But Aguilar had a good game. He had the drop yesterday too on that low throw, but it was a really good play that he dropped. But it's good to see him. And then Darren Waller is out of bounds good, and that touchdown, like. How does he? If you remember the play, it was like 3rd and goal from the 3 or something, and Waller kind of just juts out to the right and then ends up running a drag pattern across the front of the back of the defensive line. All 4 linebackers shift to the strong side, and Waller just leaks out to the weak side, and literally.
I think there was like 2 or 3 times where Kansas City's defense linebackers and defensive backs were just going towards one side, and the Raiders receiver was just coming across to the other.
And what's absurd to me is, like, in these situations, like, I don't care how good your defense is or is not. It's like, hey, let's not let that guy get open. Like,
right.
I don't care about what play you're called. I don't care if it's a zone defense or a man defense. I don't care if you're in the 46, if you're in the 4-3. Like, at some point, it's like, hey, you know what we can't do? Let that guy get open. They missed him. They forgot about him. And this happens sometimes, like it's a broken play, but it feels like in that situation, like that should be like focus number 1. And I don't mean that the guy covering him was 7 yards behind him. There was no one covering him. No one went that way. And I know if it's a miscommunication or what, it's easy for me to say sitting on the couch, but it was crazy to see.
To go dig into the Kansas City all-22 as I've been known to do.
Yes.
Tell me I'm wrong, everyone. If
You're wrong,
everyone.
God damn it. This fucking podcast.
You literally told us to say it.
Should have known what I was walking into here today.
Hang on. Tell me I'm stupid.
You're stupid.
See?
There, that's fair. And I'm thinking of this earlier. The Bills right now don't really have a glaring hole on the team, maybe other than shoring up the offensive line a little bit.
Run defense.
Okay.
That's it. That's the glaring weakness.
I guess, but the
more on that
my
later.
point is, if there is a 1st or 2nd round caliber tight end on the board when the Bills are up, I would like that guy.
I'm for it.
Watching
Kelsey and
yes.
Waller and Andrews and all of these top teams,
even like Evan Ingram,
even Ebron or
Evan Ingram,
he's
been dropping some balls this year.
He's misused quite a bit too. So,
yes.
But it just having a guy like that, or like with the Monday night games are right now, Gronk back in his heyday, Higbee, and even just a mid-tier guy like Higbee,
Hunter Henry.
Mm-hmm. Hunter Henry is another great example. Gesicki, Kittle.
Hooper.
There are so many good tight ends.
Mo Alley Cox has been making a name for himself this year with Indy because Jack Doyle
making 3 of them. Mm-hmm. I miss having that in the Bills, and I don't know if Dawson Knox is or is ever going to be that guy. Or Croft always feels like he's always just going to be a number 2 guy to me, and a good number 2.
I don't think Croft is a number 2 guy. He is a low tier 1. It's just that, like for example, last week you missed him because he was one of the contact tracers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're going to miss a guy like that. I just I think Tyler Croft is fine. What they gave him for his contract, I would say it was somewhat justifiable. And then when he's not in, you see it, and that's always his biggest problem is his availability, not his ability. So it's tough, but you know what? I'm hoping that he's able to come back and add that extra dimension to the offense because, yeah, you talk about tight end play around the league, and you're seeing it a lot more actually. Because like 2 years ago, if anyone played fantasy football 2 years ago, you knew that the tight end position outside of 4 players was just a dead zone. And
deepest it's ever been right now.
Yeah, deepest it's ever been right now. And the Bills still cannot figure out the position for the life of them. I think that Croft is that guy for now. Yes, if it's a 2nd round pick, I don't like tight ends in the 1st. I don't think the value is always there. But if
I guess I'm picturing it being a very late 1st.
Hey-o.
Touche. But I think, though, that pass rusher is probably more important there and probably a priority need for you.
I could see DN there.
DN, because for as good as Jerry Hughes is, I mean, how long can you keep it up?
And Trent Murphy's contract is up after this year?
Yes.
So that's going to be a hole. I don't mean talent-wise. There's going to be a roster spot available.
They basically need a body.
For a left end.
This year's pick is definitely going defensive line. Has to be. But I'm okay. I'm okay with Tyler Kroft and Knox as long as we have John Brown, Stephon Diggs, and Cole Beasley. There's no need for a top-tier tight end. Those two guys will suffice just fine.
I would say it wouldn't hurt, but it's not the first need.
No.
Yeah, I'm not drafting.
There's also always kind of the option out there to find a 33-year-old guy that's moving on from, like Jimmy Graham's bounced around, Greg Olson's retired and came out, and I'm not saying those guys in particular.
So did what's his name in
Vegas?
Gronkowski.
No,
Witten from the broadcast.
They're gonna put Witten in the Boogermobile to get him to run a go route.
Correct. But there's you might be able to find a guy that at least is a good pass catcher, that can fill that role. I don't know. I'm not saying that's necessarily what you're looking for.
I guess, do you need it? No. It is absolutely just a bonus.
But it would help.
But I picture next year's window being like, okay, how much longer do we have before we have to pay Josh Allen? That window is closing. And if you look at what these other teams are doing, Kansas City, I mean, now the Mahomes is getting that extension, but they have completely sold out in the short term on trying to use every single cent of the salary cap because they know that when Mahomes' extension really kicks in, they can't do things like sign Le'Veon Bell off the street in the middle of the season. The Bills next year, even more so than right now, because theoretically, it doesn't always work that way, Josh Allen next year should be even better than he is right now if he continues to develop as a player, which is great. So next year, you should want to put the team on the field that is as stacked as humanly possible to give yourself the best chance as humanly possible of winning a Super Bowl. I do think an improved pass rush is part of that, for sure. And maybe I have to see who's actually available when they pick 27th or whatever it is.
Value is going to be important to dictate that there, and maybe it would be time to posit some questions toward the draft community to see who would want to come on and talk about that. So I'm intrigued with that sort of situation, though, with a tight end in the first or second round. I'm not against it. I would just need to get some education. So we'll talk with someone
obviously
about
it has
that.
to be the right fit. And I haven't done enough research myself to tell you who that guy is or isn't.
I think you also need an interior defensive lineman somewhere to.
Yes and no. There's one that's on the roster that's just not playing this year.
Star will be a big addition.
Big, and in the literal sense,
literally
big addition that soaks up blockers.
But I'm worried about who comes behind him in the depth chart.
But I know, Justin, you've been pretty hard on Harrison Phillips, and because that's a good question, Mike. Who will be behind him on the depth chart next year? Ed Oliver's not going anywhere, but then what?
For players that are of Star Latule's style and being the one technique, you can get a chunk in the second or third round that could be useful in that regard. Again, it's going to be about the draft class, and we'll have plenty of questions of that when the season gets toward its end for the Bills.
In a very long time.
Yes. For a while. We're not going to be thinking about this until, maybe late January, February. But I think, though, that there's plenty of reason you can convince me, just to the original thought here about a tight end in the first round. I'm never for it with the position in terms of value, but if something's there, you're not going to tell me that and me just outright go, no.
What first-round tight ends have been taken? Because I'm drawing a blank. Like, I don't know who was it first.
By who?
By whomever. Just in general. Like, what first-round tight ends do we have in the league?
TJ Hawkinson is the most recent one that comes to mind.
And he's okay. He's good, but like, I'm just wondering where Kelsey was taken because I don't know.
I don't think it was a first
Kelsey
rounder.
was not a first rounder.
OJ Howard?
OJ Howard, I think.
OJ
sounds right.
OJ Howard was a first rounder.
OJ Howard was consistently on the Buccaneers field and then got pulled off to get vultured by Cameron Brate in every red zone situation.
And this year he was finally actually getting a look.
And Gronk
he
decided he was
ACL or whatever.
And Gronk is good again.
And Gronk showed up again.
Ebron went first round.
I'm pretty sure.
Engram,
Detroit.
Evan Engram and David Njoku.
Really?
Njoku
that's right. Njoku was a first.
Both of them.
The only super impactful one is Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah, and I think
Gronk was a second-round pick.
I think that you're nailing this, Derek. That this is more evidence that you probably don't want to spend a first on it. But I mean,
but if it's a late first-round pick, for example, you're not gonna say you're not gonna take him and have me be pissed off
If it was
about
somebody
it.
who slides from like 15 or something.
Couple of ones that I forgot about. Noah Fant of the Broncos.
That's right.
Hayden Hurst, taken by Baltimore now.
and
Atlanta.
Atlanta,
right.
yes.
And one, this is going back a little bit, so you have to dig.
Pete Metzelaar. No, I'm kidding.
Vernon Davis.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that is going back.
That's going back 20 years.
And
That's
also
a
Dallas
throwback.
Clark was number 24.
I remember Dallas Clark.
Them's the throwbacks.
Yeah, see.
But-
just a quick list on NFL.com. Those two, Heath Miller, Jeremy Shockey, back in 2002, Dustin Keller.
So back in the
Mercedes
day,
Lewis.
you could get a premier impact tight end in the first round. Nowadays, not as frequent.
Kittle was a 5th or 6th round pick coming out of Iowa. Kelsey was a later pick. Gronk was notoriously a 2nd round pick right around the time the Bills took some guy named Terrell Troop.
Where was Tony Gonzalez taken? I know that was
I don't know.
100 years ago.
He was probably taken in the NBA draft. You guys know he played basketball?
That's a different era at this point from where he was drafted to where we are with today's game
I'm just
scouting.
thinking as the number 1 tight end
Tony,
ever, where I'm just curious
Gonzalez.
where he was drafted.
Anthony David Gonzalez,
Where was
if you will.
Aaron Hernandez taken?
He was in the 4th round
a good
of
call,
that
Steve.
draft.
Was he a first?
13th overall, 1997.
I would say that was a killer pick.
That was not a good call, Jeff. I had no fucking clue. You could have told me the 7th round. I would have said, oh, okay.
I don't
I
think
had no
anybody
idea.
caught that.
Aaron Hernandez, I caught it, don't you worry, was a 4th round pick in 2010.
I knew
Because
it.
he had some character issues, weirdly enough, coming out of Florida. And he slipped in the draft. Weird.
I still think Tim Tebow would have been an elite tight end.
Look at Taysom Hill.
He's going to be an MLB player.
Look at Taysom Hill, an elite tight end that played quarterback.
They're finally fixing that, by the
I
way.
love
for
Taysom Hill, by the way.
$4,500 in FanDuel. It was a steal.
They sent out a notice to ESPN fantasy owners today that they're taking away tight end eligibility next week.
Well, they should, but
So-
the problem is they set the roster for daily fantasy
Thursday.
The week before. I could make a lineup right
Yeah.
now for Sunday. So
Yeah, that's why they couldn't do it last week for you fantasy players. The
Who took advantage
announcement
of-
of starting quarterback was Friday.
25
So-
FanDuel points for
Hang on.
$4,500.
I will say this. Why was he ever listed as a tight end when he plays more wide receiver than anything?
You know, I always thought he was a running back.
thought he was a
lines
wide
up in the
receiver.
backfield.
He's a wildcat. That's his package.
If you're going to give him any random position, because he plays all over the field, but like, what is his true position? He's not. Was he on the depth chart at tight end? He probably wasn't, because they have 2 or 3 pretty good tight ends. They have Watson and
I'd imagine he's got to be on
Cook.
the depth chart as a quarterback because of
He
the
is.
fact he's wearing number 7.
And they said the reason that they were willing to pay him $11 million was because he was the Swiss Army knife that he could be the backup quarterback if they needed. And now look at Sean Payton. That's the reason he started over Jameis, was that so that he couldn't get chirped at for paying this guy all this money and saying, well, he's also our quarterback and he knows the plays and he can back up Breeze.
I'm calling this right now. This is 6 days before NFL Sunday next week. The Saints are going to lose by 4 touchdowns. The only reason that worked is that no one knew what they were going to do with Taysom Hill. I don't even know who they're playing. Blindly, it's not going to work. He can't throw the ball more than 10 yards down the field. People are just going to put 8 guys in the box and turn him into Lamar Jackson.
Turns out they're playing
for
the
Lamar can
Giants,
actually throw.
and they'll win 3-0.
That would be funny.
No, yeah, they're playing. If they're playing the Giants, they're going to win 17-0 because Daniel Jones is going to throw a pick 6.
Hell yeah. That sounds like a Giants game if I've ever seen one. I'm going to keep scrolling until I find it.
Because NFC East football, baby.
Catch the fever.
So I'll bring it to the Bills if we can, because this is if you listen to week 1, after week 1, we talked about some of the expectations for the Bills season. What'd you find? Who do they play?
They're at Denver.
They're at Denver. Okay.
They're not going to lose by 4 touchdowns. Denver can't score 4
No,
touchdowns.
that's correct. Denver might not score 4 touchdowns the rest of the season. So we talked about some of the things that happened in the Jets game, and then we talked about, some season-long... I just swallowed the wrong way.
Steve is dying live in real time. You hate to see
Someone save me.
And he's sitting right between Jeff and I, so this is...
Yeah, he swallowed the wrong way. Guys, what are you doing to him?
Jeez. So
Poisoning him.
we talked about what things might happen over the course of the season. So the first one, who would have more total touchdowns by the end of the year? So we're just checking in the bye week. Will it be Zach Moss or Devin Singletary? First off, what numbers do you think they have right now? How many total touchdowns does Zach Moss have?
5. I'm guessing 5.
4?
4?
4 is right. 3 rushing, 1 receiving. He had the receiving touchdown week 1 and 3 rushing since. How many total touchdowns does Devin Singletary have?
Fucking 1.
1 is correct.
I was about to ask, does he...
So with it being
Everyone ask your friendly neighborhood Devin Singletary fantasy owner. I'm not bitter.
Definitely not.
Funny enough, in standard scoring, he's still like the 35th running back. So
He gets the yards and then gets vultured by Josh Allen, which is weird.
And so,
or Zach Moss.
Who's finishing the season with more total touchdowns? Because it's not like it's a huge swing here. It's not
Probably
like it'll be
Moss
hard
at this point.
It's probably Moss because
Moss is going to have 5 and Singletary's going to have 2.
Yeah,
yeah, probably.
It fucking feels like it.
Probably. And I think that part of it is Zach Moss is kind of getting into that groove now. But the other thing is that Devin Singletary is not that goal line guy. And the problem with him is, and always will be, he's not capable of the breakaway touchdown. He doesn't have that speed.
He doesn't have that speed. Yeah.
He's a chunk yardage guy. He is best in between the 20s. And then he could be used in receiving plays in the red zone. But when you have Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley and Tyler Kroft when he's available and Josh Allen and Gabriel Davis and also John Brown too.
Isaiah
it
McKenzie.
Kind of just and Isaiah McKenzie, absolutely,
who will throw a touchdown pass if you need him to.
Or I think he has as many receiving touchdowns in the red zone than
Stephon Diggs.
Right. And he also had that really nice dime throw against Seattle for the first score of that game. So you have so many weapons that Devin Singletary is probably not going to get in the end zone very often. But that doesn't really show his value.
So many weapons, you still want to draft a tight end in the first goddamn round.
Yes, I said I wouldn't hate it.
All right, we said who would have more total turnovers, Micah Hyde or Jordan Poyer? Let's start with forced fumbles. How many forced fumbles does Jordan Poyer have?
2.
I think 2 sounds right to me.
2 sounds right. Yeah.
I'm going to go with 1.
It's 1. How many does Micah Hyde have?
I don't
think he has one.
I think he's got 1.
1?
0. How many picks?
He recovered the one that.
How many picks for Jordan
He's
Poyer?
knocked somebody's head loose, though, so that counts for something.
Including his own. How many picks for Jordan Poyer?
Poyer has 1. It was the Larry Fitz play.
Oh, that's right. The one
Poyer has 2. He also picked off Russell Wilson.
Oh, that's right. The red zone.
The interception that only exists because Larry Fitzgerald is actually capable of almost catching that ball.
Because Larry Fitzgerald's incapable of dropping a football.
Right. I'm saying any other receiver in the NFL that's just an incompletion.
How many for Hyde?
Hyde, I don't
think he has one.
I think he has 1.
0.
So,
I thought
So it's 3-0.
Yeah.
How many? Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
For some reason, I thought Hyde and Poyer each had 1.
How many passes defended for Poyer? This wasn't what we asked, but it was fun to look up. How many passes has Poyer defended? We know it wasn't this one in the end zone last week.
13.
Oh,
13. You're giving him tons of credit.
I'm going to go with 7.
It's 4.
Oof.
And Hyde has 3. Anyways.
7 combined. That's what I meant.
Yep. All right. We asked if Allen would have more interceptions or rushing touchdowns on the year. We're going to go with Poyer on that because it feels like a 3-0 lead is convincing. More interceptions or rushing TDs by the end of the year. How many INTs does he have?
He has 7.
Correct. How many rushing touchdowns?
That's an interesting question. I don't.
He has
6?
7.
5 is the answer.
5. Wow.
So
that's a
he's-
legitimate. That's a legitimate race.
Well, and last year he finished 9-9 or something.
And
Like, it literally was tied.
First of
when we looked
all,
it up.
it's 6-5. That one against the Rams still doesn't count.
Still doesn't count. Correct.
6.
True.
It's there's an asterisk next to the 7 for some reason. So, do you think he'll finish with more rushing TDs or more INTs?
Interceptions, and it's not really his fault.
More interceptions because of the fact that he's throwing the football a lot more.
Yes,
and
he
you know
is.
what? I'm okay with
Yeah,
this.
because he's throwing 21 touchdowns. I'll take a 3-1 ratio every time.
Nobody
I don't-
saw this offense coming at the start of the
Is it
season.
21?
Yeah,
I thought it was 20.
I just looked today.
And if you go with his total touchdowns, not just his
Correct.
passing touchdowns,
almost 4-1.
It's 4-1.
It is 4-1. Yeah.
Oh, it is 21 touchdowns.
So if you're gonna produce 4-1 touchdowns, I don't care if you throw 10 picks. If you're gonna produce 40 touchdowns and throw 10 picks,
Now,
go for it, kid.
funny enough,
That's a career. You know what I mean? If you go 40 and 10 every year, you're a great quarterback.
by the way, I will never hear anything about Russell Wilson, for example, having 3 more interceptions than Josh Allen this year.
No.
Because he's well established at this point. But Josh Allen is tied with a bunch of players, I would say, with those 7 picks, including one Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
I would say though that he's doing just fine.
Yep.
And when it comes to the interceptions, though, your bad players that are above Josh Allen, they are those players. Fitzpatrick has 8, even though he hasn't started the whole season.
That's Fitz for you.
Nick Foles, who also didn't start the whole season. Phillip Rivers, Kyler Murray has 8, which 1 was because Larry Fitzgerald's that good at making sure a ball doesn't hit the ground.
Asterisk on that one, although of a different kind.
And then, of course, Russell Wilson, I mentioned with that 10. The others will not surprise you as Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, Kirk Cousins, and Carson Wentz in ascending order.
Wentz has been awful. I know everyone likes to meme on Jones and Cousins. Wentz has been the worst quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, what the hell is going on there?
It's confusing.
NFC East football. Catch the fever.
Catch the fever, boys.
All right, more receptions.
The play that he makes yesterday to throw that pick six is the worst decision any NFL quarterback has made all season. It's unbelievable. Sorry.
More receptions. John Brown or Stephon Diggs, obviously due to injury and Diggs having a career year.
Why was that a question?
Because after week 1, we didn't know. We didn't know that this was going to be
before week 1.
Because Brown was it was after the Jets game. Because the question is like Bills run struggles. But we knew that Diggs would get a lot of targets, but we weren't sure if John Brown was going to be Allen's safety blanket.
Okay, as the person that wasn't here, who came up with that question?
That was me. Just who would finish the season.
Okay, to the other three of you, how much was he drinking when that question was created?
Everyone thought it was a legitimate question because Brown led the team in receptions last year. Maybe Diggs will get locked up by somebody, and they could be. I know that we know that that's not true.
Maybe
nowadays.
anticipating more of a Diggs Thielen split.
it was
Last year
correct.
Diggs was the big play target.
But Adam Thielen is also that good.
And Brown also had more receptions week 1 than Diggs.
I know, but like I would have said the same thing immediately. I would be like, oh God, no, it's going to be Stephon Diggs.
Well, right now, how many receptions does Diggs have? 73.
Yeah.
John Brown's down to 29, which is a lot due to injury and whatnot, but Diggs is going to shatter. I mean, I remember talking to someone years ago about just longing for the days with Moulds and Price.
Oh my
when
God,
Moulds
yeah.
had like 103 receptions and 1,000 yards, and Peerless Price had
Let's
97
go.
receptions and 1,000 yards. I mean, Beasley could hit 1,000 yards this year too. Beasley's at like 700 right now.
Yeah, Beasley's at
683 or something. Yeah, 693. Yeah. So, anyways, the last question we asked is who's going to start more games as the second cornerback across from Trey White? It was Josh Norman, Levi Wallace, Taron Johnson. Obviously, injuries have plagued, and Rona has plagued Josh Norman. But who ended up? Who so far has started the most games across from Trey White?
Is it still Wallace at
as
this point?
CB2? That's half true.
Oh, is he tied now?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Levi Wallace and Taron Johnson have both been credited with 6 starts. But it's awkward because they play nickel. We know that they're nickel. The interesting thing to that is Levi Wallace has only played 6 games this year.
Right.
He started 6 and played 6. Taron Johnson has started 6 and played 10.
Right. I think
so. It's a really fluky
Johnson
question.
was playing number 3 when Wallace was on the field
and was considered a starter for those games or some of those games. Or
so
whatnot.
I would say the true answer to your question is Levi at this point.
Yes.
But
how many has Norman started?
2 or 3 because of Rona
missed
and
the
injury.
first 3 and missed another 2 or 3 in the middle.
Yeah, Levi Wallace has been missed for a lot of this season when he's not been in. And a lot of people were dogging on him early on in the season, and it's like, he's going to get attacked. You know that because we know who's on the other side. And now you see, sometimes when you yell about a player until you find out who his replacement is, Levi Wallace not only should not have been getting dogged that hard in the first place, but now you're actually seeing the value that the kid actually brings. And still, what a find for an undrafted free agent, the bargain that you continue to get from him.
I hated him. And he's grown on me immensely because I've seen him play, and I think his play has improved as well. I think it's both and. I think he's not as bad as I might have given him shit for, but I think he's also improved.
Part of that is also you're seeing targets. You're going to get a lot of practice. Yes. You're going to get a lot of those live reps, and you're going to face quality receivers. Why? Because they're going to throw the ball straight up away from him, from Tre'Davious White. They're going after you. So the mental fortitude has also got to be there. And I've always appreciated Levi Wallace. I think one of his best games last year was against Pittsburgh, and that's the one where Trey White almost had a pick 6 in that game. But Levi Wallace was shining in his own right. Yeah, it's easy to do against actual Duck Hodges, but... I thought, though, that wide receiver talent, that's still hard to face.
Yeah. Well, here's an interesting thing. That's all I had for as far as checking in from week 1. But did you guys see the stats about the last Bills defensive touchdown? You said that Trey almost had a pick 6. The Bills' last defensive touchdown came when? The last time the Bills' defense scored was when? So it's currently the longest drought in the NFL.
George Wilson against the Cowboys.
That's a really good guess, but it's not quite that long ago.
It's not that long.
It's been more recently than 15 years.
Hang on.
Yep.
There is a Brady pick 6 recently.
How recent is recent, though? Because you're correct. It's a Jordan Poyer pick 6 of Tom Brady.
Yep. I was going to say it's with with a current member of the Bills. It was in New England late 2 seasons ago. No. 3. That was
2017.
They have not had a defensive touchdown
Jesus.
since 2017. People get confused because Micah Hyde returned that onside kick for a touchdown, so that kind of like muddies the waters.
No, fantasy football players get confused.
Correct. But interestingly enough, they're the longest drought in the NFL with how good their defense is. And their defense has been known as like a ball hawking defense. Like maybe not so much this year, but last year, like the talk was, oh man, they forced those crazy turnovers.
Ball hawking and scoring, though, is a different
Correct. But you would think
itself.
that they go hand in hand. Like when you think of Aqib Talib and how many pick sixes he had, the guy didn't just steal the ball. He returned it. Like it was always a touchdown. And the Bills have gone 3 seasons now without a defensive score, which is not even a scoop and score. Like we're not even talking like, oh, they didn't get a pick 6 in 3 years. They haven't had a scoop and score.
There was also a fumble returned for a touchdown that same season. I do believe
That's the Atlanta year, isn't it?
The Atlanta year.
Where the ball slides out of Matt Ryan's
when everyone
hand,
thought it was
fumble.
when everyone thought it was
definitely a forward
incomplete
pass,
and they
but
let
allowed
the
to
play
stand.
go,
Yeah.
and then they reviewed it and still said, "Yeah, we'll let that go." It's Matt Ryan.
It's the Falcons. It's the Falcons. They need to choke. Here it is.
The Bills defense doesn't have a lot of like superior athletes like Patrick Peterson or Ed Reed and a bunch of technically sound players like Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer and Trey White.
It just feels like one of those things you should almost just luck your way into at some point. Like how many teams like just like a fumble in the end zone, you stumble upon it. I mean,
or a quarterback gets hit as he throws, and it's
just
an easy pick 6 because no one's there but you.
like the one that Wentz threw to Taki on Sunday, just floated up there. A linebacker walks in 40 yards and scored it. It happens sometimes.
Yeah,
or a scoop and score on a sack fumble. You know, like that happens.
I mean, Shaq Lawson's been off the Bills for half a season. He already has a defensive touchdown this year.
Yes.
that is true. I mean, like, and then there's even those things like. Sometimes, like, you think about the Cardinals defense, for example, they should have an interception for a touchdown, but DK Metcalf happened. So,
yes, he did.
So there's other factors that always will go into it, but at the same time, the quality of it always is going to be where do you end up putting the football if you don't get in the end zone? And there have been decent returns from the Bills this season when they've gotten those turnovers. So you can't really blame it. I would say overall they're getting better, which is good. They will not hit what they were last season because they are still missing Star Lotulelei, which means the linebackers don't get to roam free. But players have been playing noticeably better. And, well, AJ Klein, we noticed bullying works. He's been so much better than he was several weeks ago. And then even then, he still has those plays where you just go, why is he here? But he's been shining on several moments, including blitzing lately, which is not an AJ Klein thing. Like, that was never really part of his skill set. When he was brought in, it's like, okay, he's a steady depth linebacker for you, and then he wasn't as steady to start the season. I think, though, that this defense is getting better, which gives me more hope about this team, and also can hopefully allow Miami fans to shut the hell up.
They were very quiet. The Dolphins fans have been super quiet.
I would think that I would think that they were locked down, perhaps.
Maybe.
Well, let's not give any credit to Drew Lock. If Drew Lock had his way, Miami would have won that football game.
I mean, true, but when the easy namesake is there, you got to take it.
A lot of credit to Bradley Chubb, Josie Jewell, Kareem Jackson, that Denver defense.
If I say they got chubbed out, that's going to sound so much worse. Okay,
Miami received a solid chubbing in their contest yesterday. Denver is
they were smacked around by a chub.
Oh my goodness!
You're welcome. I knew you wanted to go there. We went there.
Welcome to the 716 Sports Podcast, everybody.
First of all, if you're here, you already know.
Oh my God!
He threw that directly
Jared Goff.
to the
No.
I will never be surprised that Jason Pierre-Paul can catch a ball with that hand.
With what hand?
Yes.
All eight fingers, baby.
Him and Barrett out there.
The Rams just tried to set up. Oh gosh, the Rams just tried to set up a screen, and Goff threw it to Jason Pierre-Paul instead of to his leaking running back.
I think Goff got confused that he's on the light gray team and not the dark gray team.
Can we talk for a second again about how bad these Rams uniforms are?
Yes,
they're all time
bad.
They're
just boring.
They're as bad as that interception was.
They have like 3 different fonts.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
Wow, he just
is that Henderson that leaked out and he just missed him.
Threw it right to.
Well, he threw it to where he was instead of where he was going to be, and just wow.
Henderson didn't even know that ball was thrown. He never saw that ball.
JPP tucking it smartly under his left arm, which is the safe side for him.
I mean, hey, ball secure.
I'll give him credit. He somehow has found a way to have almost 30 sacks with the Bucks. He's almost pulling his
He
hand
had a
off.
sick pick last week too.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks in a row for
Did he
this
get
guy.
a pick last week too?
Yeah, and he was in coverage, snags a ball out of the air from Teddy Bridgewater.
I mean, he was playing basically outside linebacker with the Giants for a while. Remember they used to run that 4 aces where they had like him, Tuck, Kiwanuka, and Umanura out there as 4 DNs blitzing together?
Yeah, no, like sometimes, and again, turnovers. There was a graphic they just showed that the Bucks have 13 picks now, and 2 of them come from a guy with only 8 fingers. So,
what are the Bills doing? Come on.
What do you mean you have no interceptions? We need more defensive linemen missing fingers.
But that's just turnovers do come in bunches. So this isn't.
You talk about that 2017 season and how turnover luck is an unsustainable way of doing things. I do wish they were maybe getting a few more, but it feels damn good to know that they really haven't gotten that kind of turnover luck basically all season long, maybe with the exception of the Seattle game.
Wasn't the Raiders game the first game they got a turnover this season? Or at least it was so rare.
An interception from a defensive back.
What was significant about
Dane Jackson.
What was significant about the Raiders game was they didn't force a punt. Like they punted in like the third quarter of they forced a punt in the third quarter of the Dolphins game. They didn't force a punt till like they might not have forced a punt at all in the Raiders game, but the difference was
I think they did go a full 6 quarters without forcing.
They forced
one
fumbles and turnovers, and that was
right.
that was the story of the Raiders game. They couldn't stop them, but then they would just take the ball away, which is
or turnovers on downs for like the Rams game, for example.
Hey, if you give me a choice to force punts or turn the ball over, I'll turn the ball over every time. So
yeah, I mean, it really is just one of these things though that the team is looking a little more well-rounded, but it will ultimately lean on the fate of the offense. And in this NFL, that's just about right. And luckily, the Bills have the 8th best passer when it comes to yards and completion percentage. So, no, wait, excuse me. 6th in yards, 8th in touchdowns and completion percentage. And that's usually going to bode well for you when the rest of your team's kind of rounding out the corner a little bit. So, yeah, the offense, if they're off, you're probably not going to have a great time. But the team is kind of showing itself again as a whole because the New England game, no, the offense wasn't playing its best. What's the answer? Well, they won. That's good. That's comforting to know. And then sometimes even in those games where you did score a lot, the offense disappeared in the entire third quarter against Arizona. Well, what happened? Something really stupid did. But it happened. And you know what? You can pass the blame all around there. So sometimes it gets it done, sometimes it's not. And that's just how it goes. But they're 7-3. And for the most part, they're kind of showing it.
Well, and for me, you know what I'm really excited about after 10 games? The graphic came up yesterday for In the Hunt. And you see New England down there at 4-6 in the hunt, the last team in the hunt. The Jets have been eliminated from playoff contention. You know, I was really kind of hoping they were still in the hunt at 0-10, but they're not. But all that being said, this week, instead of looking at playoff scenarios, especially because they can't get passed by the Dolphins now, instead of looking at playoff scenarios all week, I'm just looking at the injury report. And this is this was the light at the end of the tunnel that we've been looking for a long time. Get to the bye, get healthy. Who knows how many guys have even not been on the injury report or have been limited in practice but played anyway, who were nursing, whatever. I think of John Brown right away. That guy's been dinged up so many times and played most of the season. Hopefully Matt Milano comes back healthy. Mitch Morse on the extra 2 weeks rest now because he didn't play last week. And I think
Trey's been a little hurt too.
I think that's going to be a huge factor that this team is not only coming back, they're coming back into a winnable game. McDermott has been good out of the bye. Maybe not Andy Reid good, but good out of the bye. And you get the Chargers. You get a team that you can beat, not a team that I'm saying they're going to run away from. The Bills are 5-point favorites, which is good to see that they're 5-point favorites on the road, right? They go to LA. And it's just exciting that they're here. They are here. That's right. But it's exciting that they get to come out of the bye with 6 games to go, kind of primed and ready to make the last push. And it's not a push to hope to make the playoffs. It's a push to get good seeding and to, there's some teams in the AFC that can be caught now. Like they're not going to be right now. They're technically the 4th division leader, but that might not hold up.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Indy ends up with a big win yesterday. All the other AFC East teams lose, which is very satisfying. Miami losing to Denver. The Chargers, who we will be playing on Sunday, beat the Jets, even though they tried to give that game back. And then the Patriots lose to the Texans. So it feels like Buffalo was really in the driver's seat for the division again. Miami had a chance to make things interesting and then couldn't. Now Buffalo very firmly, it feels, back into solid control with a chance to put away a team that is not capable of
full
winning
game
close
right now
games.
plus tiebreaker lead.
And Miami's got some tough games on the schedule too. We talked about the Bills matching up with Pittsburgh, but Miami has Kansas City. And I was talking to my friend
And
Taylor,
Vegas.
talking to my friend Taylor about this. I'm like, Miami's got some tough games on their schedule. Kansas City, Vegas, and Buffalo.
Yes.
Like, we cannot discount the fact that Miami has Buffalo on the schedule still. Like, when you want to talk about tough games, if you're a Miami fan, you're circling the Bills game as shit. Like, that's not only a must win, but they're on the schedule. Now, maybe that game won't matter.
The problem is that most Miami fans that I tend to hear from or see comments from, they don't think Buffalo's a threat, even though they literally lost to them this year.
In the last 9 out of 10 times they played them.
But it was a close game because I missed 2 of the best defensive players and linebacker. So that game's kind of an anomaly.
That was Dodson and Klein, right? That was when
Yes. Yep.
Edmonds and Milano were both
and
out.
Milano were both out that game, yes.
But again, the fate of this team comes back to its offense.
Mm-hmm.
They closed that game out.
And now, not only do the Bills control their own destiny in the schedule, they control their own destiny with a wild card in their pocket. If there's a week that they lose and Miami wins, they still are in the driver's seat. You know what I mean? Like, if God forbid the Bills lose this week and Miami wins this week, they're still controlling their own destiny.
Right.
If they win as many games as the Dolphins, and right now, if they win one less game than the Dolphins, they still win the division. You know what I mean? Like the Broncos gave the Bills that huge buffer that they couldn't give themselves when they lost to Arizona. But it just feels good with only 6 games left to know that in theory, if you win 5 of your 6 games and lose the Dolphins game, it still doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like I'm grasping to try to word this better. They're in good shape, is what I'm trying to say.
They're in great shape,
and it's really encouraging to come out of the bye and be in good shape like
I feel like
this.
the season hinges on Dable's play calling.
I wouldn't even say that.
It's goofy after the half.
It's goofy at times, but I do think overall they have a quality offensive coordinator right now who
I don't think the offense falters as much as the play calling falters at times, though.
I wouldn't say that. I'd say sometimes it's just the execution. I think that Josh Allen has those lulls in his game, and that is who he is. But right now, we're seeing a player who is outweighing those bad with so much more good. And they are not afraid of just ditching the run entirely and trusting him. And sometimes that goes to their detriment because then Allen has that lull in his game and the third quarter turns into a nightmare of just constant poop flowing and leaking down your leg. But it just, you know what? Sometimes that's what happens with Josh Allen. That's what they got. That's what they picked. That's what they got. And that's kind of what we deserve.
Well, I wonder if Josh Allen goes through lulls because the defense is just waiting for them to pass because they can't run the fucking ball. So
That's got to be part of it.
That's why I think the offense is still so much untapped potential. They got that running game figured out. That'd be a force, man.
Mitch Morse coming back in the lineup would be huge because then Feliciano just gets to move people out of his way as a guard and playing in his natural position and just not having to worry about the head count. He can just go and maul somebody.
Is Cody Ford good?
I think he's...
I don't know.
Because that's what I mean. Like, because in theory, he should be healthy. That's what I'm saying. You're taking the thought out of my head that in theory, Cody Ford comes out of this bye week healthy. So when I think about the left side, I think it's going to be Dawkins and Feliciano and then Morse in the middle. And then the right side, it's like...
Is Brian Winters still the starter over Cody Ford?
I don't know. And I don't know if Cody Ford is good.
I don't know if Cody Ford is good.
Is he better than Ike Butker? Is he better than Brian Winters?
Probably at this point.
Probably to absolutely to Botker, probably on Winters.
I just don't know.
But I think that overall, it's also his first season playing as a guard in a while. So Cody Ford has had an interesting Bills career. And you know what is an interesting thing, though? There was a starter who swapped in and out of the lineup last year, whose name we've not seen at all this season in Ty Nsekhe. And then you see what's happening with Quentin Spain. And you're just like, what the hell happened? The starting line from last year, 2 players aren't cracking the starting lineup. 1 got cut. And, okay, that's what we're doing? Okay. But then you also remembered, hey, the Bills were pretty good at run blocking last year. Maybe those 2 players had something to do with it too. And...
Well, the funny thing is, I don't remember seeing Nsekhe out there very much at all this season.
No,
he was their one healthy lineman on the sideline. What game was it when they lost Morse and Cody Ford went down in the same game? They were saying that Ty Nsekhe was the only lineman left.
I think that was Patriots.
Maybe.
I think so.
The Bills' Week 10 report, he was Cody Ford was listed as questionable.
Yeah.
Because it's a high ankle, I think, right?
With
we saw him roll up his
practices under his belt.
Because from what I gather, like in that game, they said Cody Ford didn't go to the locker room and he was available to possibly return, but he didn't. And I mean, I don't know. My big question is, I mean, they drafted him and we haven't really seen him come into his own. What I'm encouraged by, though, is if you have Dawkins and Feliciano and Morse, you have a side of the line that you can run the ball to. And it doesn't matter if they know you're going to run it to the weak side. You just do it anyway because you can dominate, hopefully, the left side. But we'll see.
Yeah. Again, there's untapped potential, as you said, Justin, with this offensive line. I do think that there is some opportunity if the run blocking improves for them to be even better, because then you can add some of that balance. Say you go kicking ass in the first half. Well, guess what? If you're able to run the ball and chew some clock out, that's as valuable, because guess what? We learned a week ago painfully that sometimes the seconds on the clock matter. And I love the fact, though, that there is still something to this team with how exciting they are. And especially on the offensive side now, just like how much more fun they are to watch. That is one of the coolest things to me, is how much more fun they are to watch overall. This isn't usually a grinded out start to finish team. No, instead they're a stupid ass roller coaster that some evil 14-year-old prick built on Roller Coaster Tycoon. And there's a hole in one of the tracks, but you have to hope that the car is going fast enough that it stays on there.
It's one of those ones that just launches out into space, but like there's a lake.
Yeah, yeah, like that's what the Bills are at this point on offense. Is the third quarter happens and there's just this hole in the tracks. Are we going to be good here? And guess what? Sometimes, well, the other side of the track is just slightly lower so that you're able to live. That's the Bills' offense.
Feels like the question is adjustments here this year. The Bills don't adjust. The coaching staff doesn't adjust the play calling.
It's not
the
that
players don't adjust to.
It's not that they don't adjust, more so than it is, I think, the execution. I really do think that it's more on the players than the coaches for why they have these struggles in the third quarter.
I mean, it just seems like worse passes, bad drops, just people don't
penalties,
assignments are blown. That's all execution.
I just feel like these coaches do a really good job of letting these players know what to expect going into the first quarter, and then they don't do as good of a job anticipating what the other team's going to do in the third quarter. The players are not as prepared, and as a result, they perform at a lesser level.
It's not preparation for one reason and one reason only. The starts of the third quarter tend to be hot for the Bills. They still tend to score first in the third quarter.
They did against Arizona.
And then wet, leaky fart time.
Thank you, Derek, again for that very visceral description.
You need to see it.
That's the Bills' fucking third quarter.
You need to see it to adjust to it.
It's shit everywhere.
Like just, you don't know. You know what I mean? I'm gonna punch this thing in the face until it's over, because I think it's fucking stupid. The third fucking quarter. I'm so tired of hearing about the third fucking quarter. Like, what do you adjust? You got to see it to adjust to it. Like, if they sucked in the fourth quarter, then you got to be worried. But they're adjusting to it and they're winning football games.
I mean, that's the entire point of NFL coaching. You spend an entire week watching the other team do things against other teams and anticipating when they're going to do it to you. That's all the NFL.
So get out the fucking magic 8 ball.
Basically, yeah, that's what you're doing.
So that's
you
proof that it's not
15
coaching.
plays at the beginning of the game. You're like, okay, we're going to do these 15 things in a row because we know they're going to work. That's exactly what NFL coaching is. It's execution after that. But you go in like, okay, we know they're going to try to do this. That's why this year the Ravens are bad, because everyone's like, okay, we now have 18 games worth of footage on Lamar Jackson and Greg Roman's offense. We'll just do this.
And we've seen what the Bills did to Lamar when they played him, and we'll just mimic that.
Yeah,
as silly as that is, the Bills did bottle up Lamar, and they kind of created a recipe.
Josh is not the best at reading plays at the line. He hasn't had to be in the first place because they're doing a much better job with motion in the offense, which makes things a lot easier for a quarterback. And
he has two receivers open every play.
And he has a great receiving core. And I really do think that Dable and McDermott have done a very good job of setting expectations for him going into a game. Like, watch for this, watch for this. Mm-hmm. And I think that when he has to do it on the fly, it's not as effective. And I think that has a lot to do with how the third quarter of these games has gone.
Yeah. I get so frustrated when Isaiah McKenzie isn't in motion. Like, almost he should be in motion every other play, because their offense is so much more effective when that wrinkle is out there. Like,
you guys know,
you have to account for him every single time. He's so fast.
You guys know Warren Sharp, right? When he talks about, he's like, there's no reason why any team in the NFL isn't using motion on every play. You should have someone moving at the start of every play, because one, you're allowed to do it, and two, it is always making someone question something. It's a free card. It's a free space on your bingo card. Like you can have everybody lined up and have every defender lined up across from the man that they're supposed to cover, or you can move one of them and make it harder to make. You're making someone make a decision between this or that when you put someone in.
All right, good news. Tom Brady has more picks than Josh Allen. That was an arm punt
in real time.
That was an arm punt.
I'm waiting to see if Arian starts yelling at him now because he has no issue eviscerating him after a game. Maybe he'll just eviscerate him now.
That defensive back was wide open.
Yeah, so this is the old. He threw it to where the safety is.
Oh yeah, this is. Please tell me he wasn't hitting that post. Oh my God, he was trying to hit the post route.
Yeah, he didn't step
he
up.
He left it a little short. It might have been a touchdown if he didn't get a.
He wanted to step up and then was going to get killed by whoever Leonard Floyd. I think that is coming.
5 years ago, he'd have taken the lick.
Well, one ACL ago, he might have stepped up a little more.
He stinks.
That was an eon ago. That was a different player.
Like 2011.
Yeah, that was a different player. He was more intense back then.
Yeah, and then he, got to be over 40 and he has to be at bed. But I love the stat that he's like so bad in primetime games the last couple of years because he has to be in bed at a certain time, it feels like. So he's just really, and even right now, I mean, this game, it's currently tied as we're recording live. So he may lose this one too.
I don't know. But again, going back to the Bills and it just, with the quarter that shan't be named at this point because otherwise Justin might go ahead and just crush his face with a beer can. It's more on execution. The players just have to be better and more consistent. And if you can get that run game going, improving the run blocking, having Feliciano back in his natural position and actually having Morse there with him would be a hell of a great convenience right now. So I would enjoy seeing this team going through these next couple games. I might be overconfident with San Diego. Excuse me. I said San Diego. Yeah, you know what? I said it. They're the same team. They're the same thing. They're the San Diego Chargers.
Back to San Diego.
They're the San Diego Chargers that will miss field goals, screw up a special teams gaff, and then choke a game away. So, yeah, they are the San Diego fucking Chargers.
Because that's what Phillip Rivers brought to the franchise, and it's still there even though he's in Indy.
You can take the San Diego Superchargers out of San Diego, but you can't take the San Diego out of the Superchargers.
No, you can't. And I do love what Justin Herbert has been doing, but at the same time, I feel like the Bills with a bye week in them might have ways to inconvenience him. Mike Williams might be a problem because you better bet that Keenan Allen's getting the Trey White treatment. And I did not know that he is leading Stephon Diggs in receptions for the league lead by 11.
Allen is a huge volume guy. It's going to be an interesting game on Sunday. I'm very confident in the Bills' ability to win this game, so don't take me out of context.
I don't know one player on the Chargers defense other than Bosa, and he's not playing, right?
Yeah, and Derwin James, who's also not playing.
Correct. Yes, you just named the two players that I would have known.
Who they got back there? Antonio Cromartie.
Yeah. He was good a long time ago. Quentin Jammer, yes.
Wow, that's a name going back.
Corey Leggett.
Wait, these guys are playing now, you're saying?
Junior Seau?
Not 2 years ago?
Junior Seau?
Manti Te'o? I have no idea.
Manti Te'o's girlfriend also back there in the secondary.
Much like
you just don't see
much like Sam Darnold, Manti Te'o known for seeing ghosts.
Oh no,
that was well played.
Oh, did you see that by the way today?
That's why I let it
Sean McDermott talking about Justin Herbert. He said he's a kid that doesn't get frazzled. He doesn't see ghosts. Everyone thought that was a shot at Sam Darnold, which no, it's just a general expression. But you could see it and go, "Oh no, Sean McDermott's being a dick to Sam Darnold for no reason."
I hope he was.
And I would hope that he was, but we know that that's.
I know
not
that he
his game.
wasn't, unfortunately.
And however, that was still only the second most interesting comment.
It's not his fault that Darnold's on the sideline on camera saying, "I'm seeing ghosts out there." That's not McDermott's fault.
It was the second most interesting comment, and definitely the most entertaining, but definitely not the headline grabber.
What was that headline grabber?
Something about this fucking asshole virus that is COVID-19. Tommy Sweeney having his season ended because of a complication caused via COVID-19, according to Sean McDermott. What he told the media today was that it grew out because of Sweeney being on the COVID-19 list, contracting the disease, and now having a heart issue. If the name eludes me because I'm not a doctor.
It was like a myocardial issue. I apologize. I also don't remember the exact name, even though I read it this
Justin,
afternoon.
we have the internet.
It's cardiomyopathy.
Oh, nice. Or we have Steve.
Nice.
Or we have
Ready
Steve.
for it. The official press release on the Bills website is a little lacking. It's one.
It doesn't
sentence.
have the name of what Steve just labeled out. I might need that again.
So he's the second professional athlete. It was Rodriguez, the reliever for the Red Sox,
the lefty
who had the same issue where he had COVID-19. Now, again, I'm not here to preach to you, but these are healthy men in their 20s in peak physical condition, in the best shape of their lives, with lots of expendable income for medical care. And it still has taken these guys to the point that they are, and he's not hospitalized, but that's on a regular heartbeat issue. That is a very concerning thing to live with. So it is.
The good news that I read about is that it is relatively treatable for those kinds of situations for athletes.
Yes.
And they do happen to end up, most times than not, coming back from it within a couple of years. Given their facilities and what they can do for treatment, that is a little more helpful for them. I mean, Tommy Sweeney is going to have one of the best facilities in the entire nation.
Also, Sweeney has myocarditis.
Thank you, Justin.
Which is the inflammation of the heart.
Oh yeah, that's
it's
a normal thing.
Not that important of an organ, honestly. Very overrated.
Yeah, I mean, the Grinch's heart grew 3 sizes that day.
Yeah, and he fucking died probably. That sounds terrible for him. That's not good. Your heart goes 3 sizes.
I tried to
see
be
you at your funeral.
Jeff.
That also sounds like a very painful way.
It's it really doesn't feel like his heart is designed
that would
to do
hurt.
That would just rip out your ribs.
Next thing you know, I hear Shao Kahn going, "Fatality,
Kalima,
Finish him."
So anyway, just everyone stay inside.
Stay healthy.
Wear your goddamn mask.
Wear your
wash
goddamn mask.
hands.
And at this point, I may be the one sounding like a dick right now, but don't be a dick.
And obviously, you see the idiots amplified on Twitter more than anything, so I realize this is a very small minority of people. Just accept that no one should be at Bills games this year, and just be happy to have your family for the holidays.
And I know that's going to be something tough. Many people aren't going to see their family for the holidays and things like that. But you know what? This year has sucked.
A lot of those same people that are complaining about not being able to see 40 people in their family for Thanksgiving will be the same people lining up for Black Friday shopping at 6 o'clock, preventing other people from seeing their families.
But no, let's go in front of the county executive's house when he doesn't make the fucking call.
I also liked them working out across from Ralph Wilson Stadium today. It's we need the gyms open. You guys are clearly working out on your own. You're fine. I'm going to show how much I need these gyms open by lifting weights in the street.
I do love that.
Goddamn minute.
I do love that protest. That one's very fun to me because, again, it proves a counterpoint.
Cognitive dissonance, very strong.
This part of the podcast got political, but again, there's something.
It's bullshit that it's even political.
The fact that I even said the word political,
it's not political to not get a disease.
The existence of a fucking virus should not be political, and I hate these mouth breathers for it.
Anyway, Derek, before you completely lose your sanity, you also had Steve. Did you finish your questions? By the way, was that the last one?
Yeah, but the last one was fucking 45 minutes ago.
Okay, I didn't know if you had more or not.
Yeah, no, I wanted to go around the room here today with the Bills, and you want to talk about coming right and reeling things right the fuck back in. I did want to go with an overall grade on what this team has done in certain categories this season, just because Bills at the bye week, I figured why not evaluate things on a quick hits version, because hey, sometimes we're lazy like that. Sometimes we go over an hour, and sometimes we don't have as much time for the thing as I would have thought. So, guys, I'm going to go and give you, let's see, carry the 2, 8, 9 things that we're just gonna quick hits grade them on, and really just go off the cuff on this because that's kind of the spirit of this place in the podcast. So first things first, why don't we go with the thing that has been the most fun to watch, the pass offense. Mike, I'll start with you.
So what are we doing?
Just a letter grade. Yeah, just give it a letter grade.
Can we do pluses and minuses?
Yeah,
you got to do A through F.
I'll allow it.
I'll go with A minus.
Okay.
For the most part, I like how they're playing. Josh Allen's had how many 300-yard games plus 2 400-yard games?
Mm-hmm.
So they're good in that respect, but they've had a couple games where he's had 2 games where he's under 200 yards. But a mediocre game for the most part seems to be about 260, 270 or so. So not really bad. Could be a little better. Could be a little more consistent, especially in that dreaded quarter that we all are not supposed to name because of Justin. But for the most part, it is actually really good.
I'll say A-. I'm assuming you're going around the room. Sorry. I'll say A- too. They're missing the home run play still. Like that the 50-yard touchdown really hasn't been there. So that is something that I don't know if they have that player, but that's something that could be improved upon in the passing game. And then the other thing is, like, how does Diggs only have 4 passing touchdowns, like, or receiving touchdowns? Like, I'm not at all critiquing it. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, there's nothing wrong with it, but there's still room for improvement. So I can't give it the A+ because there's definitely things that could be improved upon statistically and consistently and all that kind of stuff.
I will give it just a straight up A. It is way above where I thought it would be. They've outperformed all of my expectations coming into the season. And Allen's play and the depth at receiver, I think the reason that you see Diggs with only 4 receiving touchdowns is because there are actually so many options. Diggs on some of these other teams the last few years would have had 10, and it wouldn't have mattered as much because Allen wouldn't have as many. The fact that you can be down there looking for Croft or Davis or McKenzie or Moss out of the backfield or Brown, there's so much to work with. This is the passing offense that I dreamed about before the season. I didn't think we were going to get there this year. It's an A for me.
Justin?
I think I'll go with an A too. I could agree that pretty much everything Jeff just said.
Yeah, I don't think I need to deliberate much myself here. I mean, I'm going with the A-. The only thing that I can add to this is more or less that sometimes it is the lifeblood of this offense. And while that does allow it to be that high of a grade, sometimes it does need to also be better. And Josh Allen does have some of these, what should we call them? Stananks. For people that watched Homestar Runner, that was one of those things, because I'm a degenerate like that. But yeah, he has these stananks that sometimes it's just like, why did you do that? Like one of the second interception against Arizona.
He's got those Favre moments in him.
Yes, and so sometimes that's not great. And you do want to get back to getting rid of those. The bombs not happening, I would attribute that more to the defenses don't want to get burned by it. Because early in the season, it was happening, and it was popping. The Miami game in particular, that one was just, Allen was hitting some deep shots there, including one to Diggs that was just a fantastic play that didn't go for 6, but guess what? It worked. And then John Brown for a bomb for sealing the game. So I think the pass offense has been fantastic. The run offense, however, not as much. We'll try to go a little quicker here as we go, and I'll start with this one. I'm going to give it a D, as in, damn it, I want more from this run blocking. The offensive line's been bad, and, I mean, I don't know how much you could fault Singletary or Moss when the holes are disappearing, and players like Winters and Williams are just kind of very underwhelming.
Was this the running game in general?
The run offense,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it an F, as in it's fucking awful. No push on the line. One game where you had a good rushing output, and luckily it was against New England, and you did all you needed to do to win. But it's just been bad. They can't get any tempo with it. They can't bleed clock. They can't do anything with it. It's useless.
I'll say D+ just because they have shown when they use the volume, when they had to run the ball 35 times, they were effective. Yeah. I think in part it's incompetence in execution, but in part they're just not using it. They're realizing that Allen can sling it all over the yard, and they're just not, nobody's getting 20 touches a game. So
it's a D for me, and the only thing that saves it from being an F is because you have a very mobile quarterback, and they found ways to use Allen's legs in the offense. If it was a Phillip Rivers-led offense with this backfield, it would be a big F.
They would not be 7-3.
They would not be 7-3, but thankfully Josh's athleticism saves it, I think, from being a true fail.
I'll call it a C-, boys.
That's a hot
The
take.
optimist.
Hang on, let's hear it.
Just because they literally use it to win a game when the other team knew they were going to run the ball every play. And they did, successfully. And they had a great game. When they use it, it's not always there, but they get the big gashes every now and then. I don't think it's a D worthy. I think it's about a C- because it's there sometimes. A D means it's non-existent, but they make it the plays are made when it's needed sometimes.
All right. Well, before I even go to the defense, I'm just going to go right to the special teams. Overall, the kicking game has gotten better with Tyler Bass. I am so happy to see that he has managed to forge something out of there, including 3 straight career-long field goals in a row against Arizona. That was fun to see. But special teams overall, I haven't hated how they've done. Overall, I'm going to go with a B+. Andre Roberts had one bad game. That was the game that everybody had a bad game. That was Tennessee. And I would say, though, overall, Roberts does a great job establishing field position for this team because, hey, less first downs that you got to get, probably better chance you're going to have scoring, wouldn't you say? What a neat concept. I'm never going to be that person that will say that Andre Roberts doesn't deserve a roster spot here. I love having that dude on this team. Kick coverage overall has been good. Sometimes they have a fart or two, but you know what? It's been mostly okay. And Tyler Bass started off ugly, now really blossoming. So I'm going to go with, I'll say a B+.
I'm going to go with B, but on the rise. Especially like you said, Tyler Bass started off slow and ugly, and I still sometimes feel a little iffy on his short kicks. I feel like he doesn't respect the short kick enough, but he's very comfortable long range. But I think for the most part, all the rest of their special teams have done well, except for maybe that Bajorka's shanked punt against Arizona. I just can't recall very many, if any, terrible plays on special teams.
I'm going to say a B+ because there's a couple of plays coming to mind. One, the Bajorquez punt. It can't happen. I know that he's boomed the ball. It can't happen. NFL punters cannot shank a punt 13 yards. You can't. Like 30 of the 32 teams will get through the season without their punter doing that. Like, can't happen. And then I think of the Matakevich play on the attempted onside sneaky kick that he was ready, and that to me is a big uptick too. So I'll say a B+ because that's a huge play that Matakevich recovered that onside kick, because we could have been talking about way different results if that didn't happen.
Yeah, I would say maybe it's a C+. I don't remember that punt as negative. I know it's bad. In the course of the season, I think you're massively underestimating how many teams will have a bad punt like that, or a blocked punt, or a play like that. It does happen.
Happened in the third quarter, too. Fuck.
You're breaking your own damn rule over there, Voldemort. Things shouldn't be named. I was going to give it a true C, but I want to give it a C+ instead because I think Bass, especially lately, has been a plus for me.
I would say it's a little overall a little low. I'm a bit curious on that part.
Justin?
I think it's about a B+. Tyler Bass kind of saves it. The punting game's been inconsistent, and there's still too many penalties on the punt coverage game. Always lots of blocks in the back.
On the return game.
One thing I want to add, maybe makes it a B- territory. I still think that Andre Roberts might have won on the Seattle game by letting them come out.
The way he started, the way that game started for him, he was on fire.
This is one of the first things McDermott talked about. How that set the tempo.
Yeah. So aren't the Bills one of the teams that, if not having more field goals than punts, at least very close to having as many field goals as punts? And
I would say
it's
attempts.
Not a wide
attempts. Yeah,
it's not off by a wide margin.
Yeah. Because Bass did miss a lot of them to start off. But, all right, so special teams, the offense, we covered those things. We'll go with coaching, then we'll go to the defensive side of things. Coaching overall, this one should really be quick for me. I mean, the third quarter, I don't think is anything of the scheme problem. I'm going to go with overall a B because Dable has looked great. And on fire at times. Frazier, not as much, but sometimes that has to deal with the depth and the injuries that have happened with his defense and having to use, in one game in particular, a mix of Tyrell Dodson and AJ Klein on the field at the same time. I do like this team overall, how they do things. I'm going with a solid B overall. McDermott, I feel like, has gotten gun shy with his challenges because he's won for like 28 or something like that. So... you know what? But they also haven't had many of those moments this year.
I have to agree with that. Just basically for the same reason. I think a lot of the issues are player related and not as much scheme related. And like I've said, this has been an odd year. So I think I don't know how things would be if the whole roster was playing, but right now I'd have to say a B.
I think a B+. This is the best coaching staff they've had in a long time. The offense is dynamic for the first time in 20 years, maybe longer, 30 years. The offense is dynamic in what they're doing out there. It's not vanilla. It's quite the opposite. They don't run, pass, kick. They virtually never do that. But I do think they get in their own way sometimes. I think that they could make simpler decisions about when to run the ball and things like that. And defensively, there's still something going on. They seem to be figuring it out, but there's something going on that they... when they know the ball is being run, they still can't stop it. And I don't know if that's talent or if that's coaching, but a B+.
I'm going to give it an A straight up. I think that Part of it is I think Brian Daboll has finally been unlocked as a play caller. This is the guy we thought we were getting when he signed up, and we got kind of this, but a mild version. And part of it was he didn't have the personnel. Now it feels like Daboll has his personnel, and it feels like this is the most dynamic offense the Bills have had in 20 plus. This is the most exciting Bills offensive football since the advent of the K-gun. And the defense certainly has had some issues, and maybe I'm hedging my bets a little bit on this. If the defense continues to play the way that they have improved and adjusted into playing the last 2 games against the best 2 offenses in the NFL, I think the defense is trending in the right direction. I give Frazier a lot of credit for that. It's an A for me.
All right.
I want to call it a B. I think it should be around B plus, A minus, but the total abandonment of the run game most games is really frustrating. I think the Tennessee Titans game really knocks it down a lot for me because that team was just totally unprepared to play on a long week. I don't think they were unprepared to play like in terms of like schematically though. I think it was more they were unprepared to play in terms of like I don't think the team wanted to be there, thought they should have been there. I think that's on the coaching staff for not getting the players in the right mindset for that game. They should have came out angry and ready to play, but they came out like flat, not wanting to play. They didn't want to be there. I think they didn't feel like they shouldn't have been there, along with most of us. But I think that right there really knocks it down to a B for me.
Yeah, but we can feel that way. They can't. They're getting paid to be
Understood.
there.
That's why the coaches. I think it's why the coach takes a B here, not a B plus or A minus.
All right, so we'll go right to the defense, and then I got one last one to look at. I thought there were 9. I lied. I can't count. So we'll start with the one that is uglier, the run defense. That one has been very troubling to me, and I'm going with a. They haven't solely lost games because of it, so I'm going to say it's saved into a D plus territory. Because if they straight up lost games solely because of run defense, then you would end up in an F territory. It hasn't looked good, but there have been times where they've been able to steady up. Not very often, and sometimes they lose a lot of that clock, and sometimes that's how things get turned around on this team. But I don't like what's been going on overall. They missed Star Lotulelei.
I agree with that. I'm going to go with the D because they've been wildly inconsistent. They give up a lot of yards, but the thing is they also have a few times come up with stops when they needed to. They need to consistently come up with those stops. You can't just say, okay, we're going to show up now that the game's on the line. They need to do that every series.
I'm going to say C minus because it's been below average. Like they haven't had a game where the defense shut a team down for 4 quarters. Defensively, it's been frustrating. The third down conversions that they're allowing are frustrating. The run game, it's maddening to watch running backs rip off yard after yard. So I think C minus just because when I think of average, they're below average, and that's where I'm at.
The run defense itself, I'm going to give an F. And Derek, to your point, you are correct to say that they haven't lost any games this season solely because of the run defense. I think the reason of that, I think back to maybe the most infamous lost by the run defense game ever, which is 3 years ago against the Saints. The difference between the Bills now and the Bills then isn't that our run defense is better this year. It's that now our offense puts up 35 points a game, so teams just can't pound the ball for 4 quarters. If we didn't have this offense, we would think about this run defense the way we think about that run defense.
Right.
I mean, even in luck, they're letting Kenyon Drake off 2 weeks on IR, right off 100 yards in a loss. The only thing that's stopping teams from running the ball is Josh Allen. There's not a guy in that defense who's done it yet this year.
All right. I will be willing to hear that. That's acceptable.
Justin,
I'll call it a D plus because it's starting to trend upwards. I think
a B plus,
D plus,
D is in dog.
Sorry, I was like, whoa.
Steve was ready to come over there and just.
I was like, don't
forget
slap
six,
that
forget 6
B
feet.
right out of you. Sorry.
Easy, buddy. Fuck. I just think it's starting to trend upwards. It's not phenomenal still, even though it's trending upwards, but they're making the big stops in the running game when they need to, and a few clutch 3rd and 4th down stops in the running game. So it's trending up. I gave it a D plus, C minus, but closer to D plus.
Yeah, I would say it really has been like, if they were an F, they'd be like Jets territory bad, I think. and they're not that. So, but at the same time, what you are saying is a fair counterpoint. Like Josh Allen is the reason they're not running the ball on this team, because you can't. You have to throw it on them, which leads us to the pass defense, which overall they do seem to look worse sometimes than they statistically show. And I think that the pass defense overall, though, I'm going to give them a solid B+. I mean, they've worked through a lot of injuries with the secondary, particularly at cornerback too. Taron Johnson, who has been picked on a lot, has kind of steadied up his game a little bit. And of course, Tre'Davious White, what can't you say about him? The dude's a gem and a national treasure. But the way that they managed to hold down the Seattle Seahawks passing attack, and then for the most part limit the damage that Arizona can deal until a certain thing that we will not name before Justin goes ahead and takes a monitor and shoves it in someone's face. I'm just going to make up every situation I can for that. But it really is overall a very good defense that has been dealing with some strife, and also not having Matt Milano hurts, but teams have not exposed it as badly because the blitzing has been getting there. You're actually creating sacks the last couple of weeks against Seattle and against Arizona, against two very mobile quarterbacks.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that. I'm gonna say a B is a good place for them. Like you mentioned, the injuries, but Trey White, Dane Jackson, that guy's turning out like he could be a good young star at some, or at least a good solid contributor at some point.
Cam Lewis too.
I mean, they look like they have the right pieces. I mean, this just looks like it's not the right year for them right now, especially if the pass rush isn't going to totally work all the time, especially like it did early in the season. But it looks like they're getting the pass rush figured out. I'm starting to have a little bit more confidence. They do still give up the long third down conversions, but for the most part, they seem to be cleaning up the pass rush, and the back end, the defensive backs and linebackers, especially if you have Milano healthy, will do their job more often than not when everybody's healthy.
You talked to, I'll agree, like a B-. We talked about the lack of scoring from the defense too. Like it's going to be nice if we see one of these guys, whether it's Cam Lewis or Dane Jackson or Micah Hyde, take a pick six or a scoop and score. You talked about the pass rush, so yeah.
Yeah, I'll give it a B. The pass rush is not where I would like it to be, but we are blessed with one of the best secondaries in the NFL, and it makes all the difference. They are one of the, if not the only team this year to shut down Russell Wilson on his way to maybe being NFL MVP. They have done dirty things to some very good quarterbacks. Even Mahomes, I know they didn't try to make Mahomes do too much in that game. Mahomes didn't have a crazy Mahomes game. Carr was very much under control. They're playing a murderer's row of quarterbacks this year, like I alluded to earlier, and they have done a very good job of keeping those teams, with one notable exception, from making big plays in big situations. And I think they deserve all the credit for that.
I got to go with a B as well. With Jeff, they shut down a lot of good players this year. Maybe they struggled a couple games early on in the season, but adjusting to a weird situation and a lot of injuries, and I think they're still playing pretty well. But a B for sure.
Now, Jeff, you said something interesting that is the last category that I'm ranking here. It has actually nothing to do with the Bills. It's the quality of the opposition. This team is 7-3, and there's a lot of questions overall on what this team has faced. You've got some great opponents, and sometimes they've put up duds. There is one game that I really would like to call an aberration of it all. I don't think they are that bad the way that they showed against Tennessee. But overall, the quality of opponents, I'm interested to see what the thoughts are on what the schedule has been overall. I think, well, yeah, you played the friggin' Jets twice, but at the same time, well, the first time you said bad team is bad. Go in the corner, and we'll call you when we're done. The second time, not so much. It was more or less about finishing drives more than anything else. But they really were in control of most of that game after the first half. But I think that overall, the quality of opposition, I'm giving it a B+, because you took Vegas and they have really come from the shadows into becoming a quality team and a playoff team. You were toe to toe with the Chiefs the entire night. and maybe the weather helped a little bit there. But I mean, sometimes if you're able to slow down Patrick Mahomes from throwing for 300 yards, yeah, it came at the price of Clyde Edwards-Helaire just running all over you, but you were in it neck and neck the entire time. So even in your losses, and Arizona, I mean, come on, that game was one of the objectively best endings in the NFL this season. Our heart, of course, was the part that was crushed.
They played a great game still, even though it
was a great objectively on an outside viewer. That was one of the best games of the year in its ending. So
I think Arizona's been in the best two of the best three.
Yeah,
the Seattle Sunday night game is the other one that stands out. Maybe last night's game. And then I ignored
Seattle entirely because the Bills, start to finish, gun to gun, beat the Seahawks. I mean, even the dreaded evil thing that I will not name because Justin will go ahead and drop kick my face. I even that one did not bother them. So again, quality of opposition, I'm giving B+ because, well, the Jets dock you grade.
I'm going to go with A-, but just because the Jets dock you a grade. You've beat two of the three projected playoff teams from the NFC West, which is supposed to be the best division in football this year.
That's right, the Rams.
Yeah, they beat the Rams. They almost came back again. I mean, they were, a minute away from coming back against the Cardinals. So
34 seconds, give or take.
Yeah. So you're looking at 3 6-3 teams in which you went 2-1 against. They're 4-3 against teams above 5. They're currently above 500. We remember what they did to Seattle, and I think really the only aberrations of the season are the second Jets game where they couldn't finish a drive. The only touchdown was called back because of illegal formation, and the Tennessee game, which I don't know if anybody even knew what was going on. That was a Bills player on the field.
I'll say A- as well. I think they're the only team with 4 wins against teams with winning records in
Correct.
the NFL. That was at least before this past weekend.
They're 4-3.
The only team with 4 wins.
They faced 7 of those.
Yes. It's crazy that they faced 7 out of 10 of their games, but it's also crazy that they're the only team in the NFL to have 4 or more wins against teams with a winning record.
Real quick, you mentioned that, and I just thought about it. Like 7 of their 10 games have been teams above 500 or playoff teams, and 2 of those games were the goddamn Jets.
Yeah. That's
the
why
other one was the Pats because they have a losing record as well.
Like it just
damn.
Wow, Jets, you really bring it down.
And that's why it's a solid A for me. I can't imagine like every team, with maybe the exception of San Francisco, and I don't know their schedule because they have to play the Cardinals, the Seahawks, and the Rams twice in division. A lot of good teams just have that one team in their division. You know, Pittsburgh gets Cincinnati this year. Kansas City has Denver. We don't talk about Kansas City's schedule as if it's a joke because they have to play the Broncos twice. I think the Bills' schedule has been as difficult as possible for a second place finisher playing the Jets twice. I have a hard time envisioning because even the early season games that we didn't know, like Miami, we sat here the Monday after Miami, was like, I don't know, it was the Dolphins. The Dolphins turned around and have been really good. Same with the Raiders, like, it's just the Raiders. The Raiders have been out and they've been really good. They just happened to beat a couple of teams handedly who then were good after playing the Bills. I think they should get a lot of credit for the quality of opponent. Brady tried the old double pass after getting away with that fumble, except what they call this one.
I'll go with an A. They played a really tough schedule. I can't say it any other way. You guys already said it. They played really tough teams, except for the Jets. And back to the run defense. If you want to say the run defense maybe lost you in a game, maybe it is the Chiefs game because the Chiefs didn't pass because they didn't have to pass. They ran it down our throats the entire game and controlled the clock. And we lost the game, in my opinion, at the arms of the defense not being able to stop a running play for the life of them. I want to go back there real fast.
That's a good point. Now, I think Patrick Mahomes probably would have won the game anyway. That's a conversation for another day. But it would have been nice to make him try.
I mean, they did. So, they made him have to earn it. And, again, there was that one deflating touchdown, the rushing touchdown that, you saw that Klein shot the wrong gap. Edmonds got blocked up, and it just, that was a really deflating one. But the Bills managed to fight back and say, hey, we're still in this thing, and we could still do this. So, again, I think overall this team's been great, and they are showing it. They're 7-3 against that schedule.
And consider 14 of your opponents are predetermined anyway, so you don't really have a say in 14 of nothing you do determines 14 of your opponents except what year is on the calendar.
Yeah, and the other thing, though, that has to be taken into consideration is that the Bills also are facing the second best teams for 2 of their games. How is it grade? Where is it?
Well, last year's second best team in the was in the NFC North was Pittsburgh, and they're 10-0 now.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to think. I need the Bills schedule in front of me. That's what it is. But really,
well, your extra games outside.
Yeah,
of
the extra games
outside of your divisions are Tennessee and Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and those 2 were the second best, but they were playoff team. Well, one was a playoff team last year. The other was a win away from a playoff team and had Duck Hodges as their quarterback and Mason Rudolph. So that explains a lot there. So those 2 are very hard teams, and that's just the 2 that are based off of last year. The rest of it, as you said, Mike, they're already predetermined.
You're on the calendar.
You're on the calendar.
Imagine how much easier the season would be if instead of the NFC West, they just got the NFC East.
Well, they'd be 3-0 out of conference instead of 2-1. They're 2-1.
It actually is amazing that it would only probably give you a game.
It only gives you a game. It only gives you a game. Because, I mean, come on, let's be real. The Bills would kick the shit out of whatever the hell the NFC East is giving them every week. But by God, thank God they're not, because quarterbacks seem to get hurt in NFC East football.
Three football teams and the football team.
So
I'm glad this has become a thing now.
But again, you're only getting 1 win out of that, and it's just ridiculous though that they've earned some really tough kudos against a very tough division, and the only reason they're not 3-0 ultimately is because they left 30 seconds on the clock.
I mean, the only reason more specifically, a perfect pass to the only guy who can make the play. I know we talked about it last week.
Yeah,
sometimes it just happens.
Sometimes it happens, and I mean, I'm already well.
Steve and I
had a shouting match last week, but I'm just going to let you know.
I am curious,
buddy.
Steve, I
am right the hell over this one. What play?
You asked if I feel better. I'm not lying when I say this. I watched no NFL Live, no First Take for the week. I'm not kidding.
It's fine.
I just couldn't.
I watched a single snap of football over the weekend. This is the first football I've seen.
I watched football yesterday. I watched Red Zone.
I had Red Zone on wire to wire.
I could not see the play.
When Scott Hansen says 7 hours of commercial-free football, I smile.
I put my brain on total reset Friday.
Yeah, I
forgot we were podcasting today till about an hour before.
I kind of skipped it. I kind of skipped out on it yesterday, but at the same time, it was more or less like just whatever sort of thing.
I had to watch Taysom Hill just for my own curiosity. I was curious how PJ Walker was going to do starting for Carolina.
Let me hear you out. Let me ask you this about Taysom Hill. You watched some of it?
I watched a lot of it.
So I see people on Twitter and Facebook going off about get him out of the game. But I see he had 5 incompletions and 230 yards in a good game.
They struggled to get anything going in the first half, though. Like they just offensively, they just petered out most drives, and then he figured it out as the game went on.
Picture a Josh Allen game from 2 seasons ago that the Bills won, and Josh went for 150 yards, but ran really well, and the defense did well, and they won.
Titans game last year.
Okay, well, we're talking about a quarterback who.
That's the ham sandwich Titans.
Second fiddle to Drew Brees in practice every week for the past. How many sets of quarterback does he get in his entire career?
Even at practice.
Well, you heard about him.
Even at practice, how many quarterback snaps?
You heard about him. You heard about him at team meetings. He's always late to the quarterback meeting because he sits in tight end meetings first, and then he goes to the quarterback meetings, and then he goes to the wide receiver meetings,
and he goes to special team meetings.
He goes to more meetings than anyone on the team, so he misses chunks of every team's meetings.
But overall, how was this game? Sorry.
I mean, they had a good game plan for what. Peyton definitely had a lot of these plays waiting for a game where he had to play him for an extended period of time. It was a lot of motion, a lot of using Kamara, which is smart. He had a nice rushing touchdown. Hill did off the left side from about 15 yards out. The problem becomes, and I don't know if Denver will do it or the first team to do it, is the first team that plays effective run defense against Taysom Hill will beat the Saints, because he cannot throw more than 10 yards downfield. He threw the worst deep ball I have ever seen by a professional quarterback in that game yesterday. It was horrendous. He was good 5 to 10 yards hitting Smith and hitting Michael Thomas.
Yeah, he knew to throw the ball to Michael Thomas. It's a good idea.
But in terms of if you needed a Hail Mary from Taysom Hill, you might as well just kick a 70-yard field goal.
He didn't turn it over. Jameis turned it over 4 times.
He didn't turn it over because the Falcons are bad.
Yeah, that's true. Do you think they turned into a Saints podcast? Do you think they started him because they really wanted to see what he was like, or lack of confidence in Jameis Winston?
A little both. You don't pay that guy $11 million to not play him in the situation, even though I think they should have played Jameis.
I want to see how
it was
Jameis
interesting.
plays.
The only thing that was interesting to me was that when Breeze got hurt last week against San Francisco, they put Jameis in because Jameis was capable of running the Breeze offense. But now on a full week, they're like, I would rather run a Taysom Hill offense. And that's fine. And Sean Payton, he won the game. They're first in the NFC. I'm not here to tell him he's doing his job wrong. I just thought it was interesting. I don't think it's sustainable. I could be very wrong. I don't think he's a good quarterback. He's a crazy athlete, and he could do some really interesting things in the quarterback, but people are going to stop him. Out of all the long podcasts that we have done, this one has been especially.
As the NHL
with no
marathon.
They've got a committee planning on playing around the beginning of the year, but nothing official yet.
What is hockey?
It's getting closer and closer. Hopefully, I can't wait. I miss hockey. Looking forward to watching this. I think the Sabres are going to be a force.
I miss the Bandits. I miss the Bandits a lot.
Is there any lacrosse plans?
They pushed back the season to
April now, but there's a whole lot going on with summer ball. Six Nations is talking about not having a team in major series lacrosse. There's a lot going on. There's a lot.
Summer ball's outside though, right?
Get back to me in a month or two, and mostly get back to Steve because he knows way more than me.
Also, I would think that Canada probably presents problems for like the NL.
Well, they talked about division alignment. They had a Canadian division and then an East division and a West division, and then let them play within their divisions. And then as the playoffs come about, you either could play in a bubble and get permission, or you can hopefully then be far enough. If they start in April, hopefully as the season wraps up by July or August, travel restrictions we would be able to cross the border without
one can dream
that you'd be able to cross the border without the restrictions because vaccines and whatever. So the thoughts are Canadian division, Eastern division, Western division, but all that's up in the air because
so you would have Saskatchewan, Toronto, Halifax,
Calgary
play in their own division then.
Vancouver.
Yep.
And then like Buffalo, Rochester, New England,
Philly,
Georgia. Mm-hmm. And then the other Western teams in their own. Okay.
San Diego,
Colorado.
Yeah. Anyways.
Maybe move Georgia over there. Yeah. Point is they would have to do something like that at this point.
Yep. And then
like the NHL's looking at doing.
If nothing else, it buys them time.
Yeah.
It gives them time that they don't have to worry about crossing the border and quarantining when they do. And then, like I said, if the playoffs need to happen in a bubble, they could have the playoffs set and then wait 2 weeks for the playoffs to start, and then the players might be able to quarantine. That's a big ask, but
Steve, part of my ignorance on this subject, I know a lot of guys, Dane and Josh, are living here during the season. How many Canadian lacrosse players live in the U.S. full time during the season for the NLL?
Virtually none.
That's another big issue.
Well, at least in Buffalo, especially because you have guys that for Corey Small when he played here, it's a 40-minute ride to Buffalo.
Well,
why would he live here?
I guess my point is if there are way more Canadians than Americans who play pro lacrosse. Right. If you are a pro Canadian lacrosse player for the Colorado Mammoth, you can't exactly drive down from Toronto to Denver.
Now, someone like Ryan Benesh moved to Colorado because he worked in a government job and was able to tell them he does work around the city of Kitchener, and he said I'm going to take a hiatus and move out there. But even teams like New England, they're hoping to, if I remember right, they bought a house, the team, so that they can have players stay and live in New England to be involved in the community and to be a part. But there's still going to be guys that fly out there. Even when Alex Bouquet played in Buffalo, he missed practice on Tuesdays, just flew into Buffalo or flew into the city that they were playing in. So
I guess the part is
really it's really difficult.
They're also not making NFL money where you'd be like, hey, leave your full-time job and come live in this house. It sucks for these guys and their families. They're counting on having income that isn't necessarily lacrosse based. So there's a lot for the NLL to navigate. And
Fort Worth announced Panther City Lacrosse Club. That's the name they went with. Panther City Lacrosse Club.
Don't like it.
So
color scheme is cool. Logo's cool. Don't like the name.
Anyways, everything's up in the air.
Able to grow on me. Still beats Washington football team.
Everything's up in the air. So anyways.
Yep. I look forward to whenever it is just doing a podcast with a football game with fans in the background safely, not just because they were allowed there. Looking at you, Dan Mullins, or the guy in Florida who wanted to have a full swamp the week before his entire team tested positive for COVID-19.
Yep.
And I know, especially this week with the holiday coming, like we all alluded to, it's tough to think about not seeing your whole extended family and people not traveling and all that. So just know we here are very thankful for all of you who still listen to the show, and know that, whatever it is, there's a light at the end of the tunnel someday. We'll get there together, but we have to do it together.
Yeah, and always keep listening. Thank you for everyone that joins in our hilarity, stupidity, and overall chaotic brand of podcasts.
We'll find some goofy things to do to give you some additional content offline in the off podcast in the next month or two here too.
I don't know why, but I thought of the one with the which was it? After the KC game, Pegging Holes.
Pegging Holes.
Pegging Holes.
As always.
No, that's not what we're doing outside of the
Pegging Holes, catch the fever, folks.
NFC East football. That's what we're doing. That is what we are doing.
I'm going to start a side podcast where I just talk about NFC East football.
Catch the fever.
Catch the fever.
That's the name of it. NFC East football. Catch the fever.
Anything else here today, boys, before we put a bow on it or a turkey on it, whatever the hell you put a cornucopia on it?
I need a lot of jersey money.
Oh, new Buttes jerseys are fucking great. I love the Black Road jerseys for the Buttes. They just announced them tonight.
Oh my god, team sellies are always the best.
Goff and Brady trying to give this game away to each other. Love it.
Yeah, I do like the Buttes black jersey. The only thing I would add is put the change the forearms to black instead of white, and put the bottom stripe like is on the blue jersey. That's the only thing I would change with those.
And they also announced the signing of Jordan Giron, who I believe played for Boston last year. Mm-hmm. She was a PTO signing for the Buttes in 2017 and has played for them in bits and pieces over the last couple of years. So I'm excited to see her on the team. That's a good addition for them. Like you mentioned, Steve, she's very talented. It's a great depth signing for them this late into the offseason. Everyone's staring off into the relative distances. I think that's a good sign that we should wrap this one up here tonight.
It's a good sign, and with the holidays, stay safe. Don't be selfish.
Just eat like 4 pounds of turkey in your bed by yourself. Or with your close household.
That's probably the dream right there.
Listen,
entire turkey just by yourself.
Just buy yourself a 5-pound turkey, put it in the bed next to you, turn on the shitty Cowboys game, because I think they play Washington on Thursday.
NFC East football, catch the fever!
Perfect. So you can have your dinner, and then when the tryptophan kicks in, you're already in the bed. You don't even have to move. You just let nature take its course through your body. Just fall over into some gravy, wake up the next day, and smell like regret.
All I picture right now is that scene at the end of Dodgeball.
Fucking Chuck Norris.
What Ben Stiller, fat as shit, just crushing a chicken leg in his
like, folks, this is always the one time of the year, and it's extended significantly this year because be inside, be safe. But Thanksgiving is always the time of the year where no matter what you do, health-wise and food-wise, the rest of the year, you are always heavily encouraged to eat about your entire body weight in potatoes and turkey. So make the most of it.
This is the one day a year where I traditionally drink an entire bottle of Lockhouse barrel-aged gin.
Are you going to do that again this year?
You know what?
Every year.
I've got a challenge for everyone.
Okay.
Pie rankings. Bring it for next episode.
Okay. Deal.
God, we're ranking everything.
No. Just give me your top five pie rankings. We can fight.
Perfect. We will open the show with that next week, unless the Chargers do something crazy. No promises that the Bills won't do something. They'll make us open the show. We'll talk pie. We'll talk football. We'll talk turkey. We'll talk about NFC East football as we do every week now, apparently.
And we will catch the fever.
We will catch the fever. Thanks for listening, everyone. Catch us on the social media, Twitter, 716 Sport Podcast, Facebook, 716 Sports Podcast. Hit us up there. Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Play for the show itself. For everyone here, have yourself a happy holiday, and we'll talk to you here next week.
Quick preview for next week. Apple pie is not a top 5 pie.